Vatican City. Gracing the walls of St. Peter's Basilica is the Vatican-approved image of God. An angry bearded man in the sky, painted by Michelangelo. Cruel and violent images of God's tortured Son, suffering, bleeding and dying with thorns gouged through his skull and nails pounded through his feet and hands are on display throughout the Vatican. These images serve as reminders that God allowed his Son to be tortured and killed to save the souls of human beings who are all born sinners. The Vatican rules over approximately 2 billion of the world's 6.2 billion people. The colossal wealth of the Vatican includes enormous investments with the Rothschilds in Britain, France and the USA, and with giant oil and weapons corporations like Shell and General Electric. The Vatican's solid gold bullion, worth billions, is stored with the Rothschild-controlled Bank of England and the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank. The Catholic Church is the biggest financial power, wealth accumulator and property owner in existence, possessing more material wealth than any bank, corporation, giant trust or government anywhere on the globe. While 2/3 of the world earns less than $2 a day, and 1/5 of the world is underfed or starving to death, the Vatican hoards the world's wealth, profits from it on the stock market, and at the same time preaches about giving. So how did the Vatican accumulate all that wealth over the millennium? One method was to put a price tag on sin. Many bishops and popes actively marketed guilt, sin and fear for profit, by selling indulgences. Worshippers were encouraged to prepay for sins they hadn't yet committed and get pardoned ahead of time. Those who didn't pay up are threatened with eternal damnation. Another method was to get wealthy landowners to hand over their land and fortune to the church on their deathbed, in exchange for a blessing which would supposedly enable them to go to heaven. Pope Leo V rebuilt St. Peter's Basilica, by selling tickets out of hell and tickets to heaven. The Catholic Church has become the biggest mafia on earth, with their protection racket of selling forgiveness for sins. How can these people possibly forgive sins when they do and teach the opposite of what God and Christ teach in the Bible and obviously do not work for them? The Catholic Church's practice of teaching people that they can be sinful all their lives, and all they need to do is pay the church for forgiveness, is one of the chief causes of all the evil and dishonesty in the world, as people are actually taught and encouraged to be sinful and evil, rather than to purify themselves and strive to become perfect, even as God is perfect, as the Bible teaches. The saddest part is that many people actually buy the church's lies, and think that they can get away with being evil all their lives, and all they have to do is seek forgiveness from a priest. They are gravely mistaken and will find out with a terrible shock that God is not stupid and that they will have to give an account for every single thought, word and deed in their lives to him. During the Dark Ages, the Catholic Church not only hoarded the wealth they collected from the poor, but they hoarded knowledge. They kept the masses ignorant and in the dark by denying them a basic education. They also prohibited anyone from reading or even possessing a Bible, under pain of death. Between 1095 and 1291 AD, the Pope launched 7 bloodbaths called the Christian Crusades, torturing, murdering, beheading and mass murdering hundreds of thousands of Muslims in the name of God. The Pope's brutal slaughters were called Knights Templar or Knights of the Temple of Solomon and evolved into today's secretive brotherhood called the Freemasons. Between 1450 and 1700 AD, the Catholic Church followed up their holy terror with the Inquisition. Based on rumors of practicing witchcraft, the Catholic Church hunted down, tortured and burned alive tens of thousands of innocent women at the stake. During World War II, the Vatican was criticized for supporting Hitler and his Nazi regime, whom the Pope blessed and named the Envoy of God. Over the past 5 decades, more than 1,500 priests and bishops have been identified in the sexual assault of tens of thousands of boys and girls in their trusting congregations and orphanages. Why is the filthy rich institution preaching spiritual values of poverty and chastity while cardinals, bishops and priests cover up their crimes of sexual abuse? Why has the Church fought and resisted the compensation claims of their sexually, emotionally and spiritually traumatized victims?